Greetings. This is Mr. Samuels, and I'm going to help you with the CRA on the story A Kid in a Candy Store. The first thing we want to do is to preview the CRA. And the CRA is, how does Tommy's father react when Tommy tells him he wants the skateboard? And obviously we want to highlight the key words here. How, which means we have to describe it. React is what he does when something happens. And what is happening? Tommy is telling him about the skateboard. And so now I know what I'm looking for. What does Dad do when he hears that his son wants the skateboard? Next step, read from the story. That I'm looking for the event when Tommy says he wants a skateboard and when his father reacts to it. Kid in a candy store. It wasn't the candy he wanted, it was the skateboard. Tommy had been staring at it for weeks, every day on his way home from school, admiring it through the window of the skate shop on Market Street. It was a longboard, a serious skateboard, not meant for tricks or speed, but for long rides down hills, on busy roads, or all the way across town. This was a skateboard that could change Tommy's life forever. No longer would his parents have to pick him up after school, or at the movies, or at the mall. The longboard would be able to take him home. It was ocean blue with chrome wheels and an elaborate drawing of a rocket ship on the underside. Each time he pressed his face against the glass of the skate shop, he felt himself fall into that picture, and his dreams of riding the longboard became mixed up with the dreams of interstellar travel. He wasn't just going to the mall, he was going to Mars, to Alpha Centauri, to anywhere in the galaxy he felt like. He was going to conquer the stars. Or he would have anyway if his dad wasn't such a cheapskate. Cheapskate means someone who doesn't want to buy or pay for things. There's something about fathers that make it impossible for them to understand skateboards. Dad, it's the world's finest skateboard. It could change my life forever. So, since I previewed the question, I know that I'm getting to an important part. Tommy is kind of asking for it. That's great, said Dad. I'm all for kids having hobbies, but that's an expensive hobby. So, I'm stopping right here and just highlighting this even on the first read, because it's telling me that his father's reacting. It's not a toy. Tommy felt himself about to lose his temper. If he shouted, he knew he would never come close to owning his board. He collected it himself. It's a whole new way of life. When you were my age, what was the thing you wanted more than anything else? The thing you dreamed about, the thing you promised you would get no matter what? A black shadow? A what? A Vincent Black Shadow, the world's finest motorcycle, a more beautiful piece of machinery has never been designed. So yeah, this board is like the Vincent Black Shadow for the 21st century. So you see why I have to have it. So again, this is his father talking to him about the skateboard. So even though I'm reading it for the first time, I'm still highlighting it. So yeah, this board is like the Vincent Black Shadow for the first 21st century. So you see why I have it. You know why my dad told me when I asked for a Black Shadow? That is Tommy's father talking. What? Nothing. I didn't ask him because I knew he'd think it was nothing more than an expensive toy. I went out and got a job and started saving. So this again is his reaction. He's telling him how his father treated him when he wanted something. Man, said Tommy, I'm afraid you'd say something like that. Dads are the worst, aren't they? Tom walked up and down Market Street looking for some place to work. The pizzeria wasn't hiring. The coffee shop said he was too young. The comic book store said he didn't have enough experience. But how can I get experience, Tommy asked, if no one will give me a job? The comic book clerk didn't answer. Tommy composed himself, said thank you, and left. The only store with a help wanted sign was the one he'd been dreading most, Orson's Confectionaires, the candy store. Whoever thinks that all kids love candy stores has never been to Orson's. It had been in the town since the dawn of time and had been updated much since. A dark, winding dungeon of a store. Its shelves were filled with jars and weird sticky gums and sucking candies so hard they could crack your teeth. Over all of it stood Mr. Orson, a hard-eyed skeleton of a man whose long gray hair and baggy clothes made him look like an out-of-work wizard. Tommy didn't know how the confectionery stayed in business. He'd never seen a kid go in and out, and he'd never heard anyone talk about buying something there. How could that store turn a profit? And why would a store with no customers need an extra employee? Tommy didn't want to find out, but the skateboard demanded he try. He pushed on the creaky old door, sucked in his teeth, and plunged in. How may I help you? Said Mr. Orson. He sounded like a snake with a cold. You're looking for sweets? No, well, some raspberry rope, perhaps? No, thank you, actually, a chocolate lover, are we? Perhaps you'd prefer a chunk of Carlsberg chew. It's the finest dark chocolate made in Germany. It has real hazelnuts inside. That sounds good, but I see, said Mr. Orson. His eyes went wide, his mouth crumpled up like a dead leaf, and Tommy got the impression he was about to scream at him or sneeze. I understand completely now. Understand what? You're a boy with a sour tooth. He reached behind him to the highest shelf on a rickety bookcase and presented Tommy with a star-shaped tiny yellow candy. Try this, a Starburst Express, a sour candy of my own design. Yeah, free of charge. Tommy licked his lips. If there was one thing in life he loved more than skateboarding, it was sour candy. The grosser the better, he thought. A candy wasn't any good if it made you squeeze your face together, shut your eyes, and want to cry. That's how you knew it was nice and sour. It's pretty sour. It will make your tongue turn inside out. Tommy reached for the candy and popped it in his mouth. At first, he tasted nothing, and then he began to chew. It was like an oil tanker had spilled in his throat. His gums were on fire. His tonsils were tap dancing. And his tongue felt like it was about to turn inside out. Oh my goodness, he gasped. This is the best candy I ever tasted. Why, thank you, said Mr. Orson. Have a sip of Fizzberry soda. It will ease the sensation. Now you're looking for a job? How did you know? I could just tell. Desperate for a new toy, are you? It's not a toy. Well, yes, that's right. The sunburst was a test. I don't want anyone